Hello, welcome to a new video. My name is Nina and I'm an artist living in Shetland, and I really like to make art inspired by living in Shetland, living on this island. I do a lot of landscape work, and along with that I do a lot of sketching and playing about. That's probably one of the more prominent themes of my work, is this notion of play and really just trying to have as much fun with being creative and painting as I can. Yeah, so I thought today we would go through these two sketchbooks that I have finished fairly recently, and I can't really remember what's in these sketchbooks, so I think that's gonna be fun to go through this. But yeah, let's just get into it. Which one should we start with? I'm gonna start with this one. I think this one might be more exciting, so let's just go for it. So first couple pages are blank, but then we get to some little self-portraits. I really like doing these from time to time, just sitting in front of the mirror and really just sketching. I really like this one. I remember doing this. I think this eye is gorgeous. Not so great. Yeah, as I said, I really like doing this little activity every now and again. I feel like generally when I feel a little bit bored of the project I'm working on and I just want a bit of a break, and also maybe when I'm feeling like I don't really want to paint, I just want to pick up a pencil and keep it really simple, I will just sit in front of a mirror and sketch. And I think this is a really fun thing to do. I never really get stressed out about it. It's just about really, I guess, practicing looking and sketching. And a lot of the time I quite like to not, I don't try and intentionally make these little drawings look like me a lot of the time. I either like to exaggerate things or just really enjoy the material I'm using. So I really love sketching with pencils and just some of the marks you can make, so often it's about that. Anyway, then moving on, we have a little landscape. Quite like some of the colours here. This is a type of sketching that I really got into the way of doing about this time last year. Just really quick, gestural, loose landscapes, just trying to... Really, it was just about making something without thinking, because when I started doing these sort of landscapes, I was in a space where I was really thinking too much about my practice and I wanted a bit more relief. And I just wanted to create. So I was clearly going back to that here. So I think I started this sketchbook in November, because I think I did these just before I went on a trip to Orkney, which was in November. Here we have another little self-portrait, a couple more. Got the headphones on this time. Oh, I like this one. A lot of these ones, not such a fan. Oh, we've got some blank pages. That's funny. I actually want to say though something before I continue on. I am a big believer in sketchbooks should be a place where things are allowed to be a bit messy, and they're not meant to be this sacred, pristine artist book. Like, that to me is not what a sketchbook is. Online there's a lot of artists that make really beautiful work in sketchbooks, which I'm always amazed by, and is actually how I started really sketching in a sketchbook. I used to kind of follow that sort of trend of really trying to do something neat and pristine in my sketchbook, but over the years I've kind of become a lot more comfortable with using this space as an area of play and an area where I'm free. I don't need to care about the result, and to be honest, that's actually the attitude I want to take into all of my art, because I'm a little bit of an overthinker, and if you've watched any of my other videos, then you probably have kind of gathered these sort of themes that I like to talk about surrounding mindset and art making and getting yourself in a rut and then trying to get out of that. Anyway, back to the sketchbook. This is quite a nice little drawing. I remember doing this when I wasn't actually really sure about what I wanted to make in my art practice. I didn't necessarily feel like hugely confused, but I don't know, it was just a moment, it could have even just been a day where I was feeling a little bit off, and I ended up actually looking at a photograph and starting to sketch, which is something I like never do these days. That's something that I used to always do, and really where I began art making. I used to always use like a reference, and it would be a photo on my phone or something from Pinterest, but I've really moved away from that, and I don't really rely on references very often. I can't explain that. I'm not sure what that's about. Okay, we've got some more self-portraits. I think this is quite nice actually. I like the green pencil. Something a bit different. Yeah, I tend to like try out different kind of ways of sketching, so here I'm really being very minimal with how many lines I put down, and then here less so. And I feel like you can get my sort of loose, I don't care about the sketchbook mentality, because I'm happy to kind of scribble over things and what have you. Another blank page. Ugh, maybe this sketchbook isn't as finished as I thought it was. Okay. I think my mum or my dad is hoovering right now, so I'm just gonna leave this for 5 minutes and I will be back. Okay, we're back. The hoovering has stopped. This little sketch here, this little painting, is actually inspired by a sketch, I believe, in this book, or maybe the sketchbook I had before this. This is probably where I started using this sketchbook a lot more frequently, and I would say rediscovered the joy of having a sketchbook, because when I was in uni, I feel like I didn't rely on sketchbooks that much, but in the last like 6 months they have really become like a staple part of my practice. So these are all just little paintings that are inspired by sketches I did outside. This is a very quick one of the view from my window in the bedroom. And these are just acrylic paintings, and yeah, this is kind of where I started to find a bit of more of a flow after graduating from uni, because I would say for like the next 5, well, I had a bit of a break between graduating and then moving back home. I feel like I was just kind of getting into the rhythm of a new chapter, I guess. And then it was when kind of the winter settled in, I really felt like I started to find my flow a bit more. And really a natural progression for my practice, I think, has just been that I've become way more inspired by like living here and the landscape, and it really is what I want to continue to explore. So yeah, these are all just acrylics, and I was just playing about. Like, these were not to be for anything, and I wasn't really trying to do anything with them. I was just I think trying to have a bit more fun. And here I have whipped out the crayons again. I had a bit of a break from them, but I honestly can't really tell you too much about these. I think actually I made these when I was in Orkney, but they weren't like of Orkney. I just had a few materials with me and spent some time drawing in the camper van when we were on a little holiday, me and my boyfriend. And this is a sketch that I did whilst in the caravan. Max was reading, or potentially just on his phone. But it's actually quite a nice sketch. Quite like this. I like to draw Max when he stays still enough for me. It's good fun. On here you can see I was kind of getting crayons out and trying to do a bit more of a colour study, but not finished. More drawings. Okay, here this is me trying to plan a painting. I was going to paint Max's parents' house for a Christmas present for them, and yeah, this is me attempting to draw houses and realising I really don't like buildings. And I was working from a photograph, which was a little bit different for me. So yeah, these pages are a bit boring, just whip through them. Really trying to get my head around this composition. So much boring. Another blank page. Okay, this This sketchbook is not finished. Okay, and now we're on to, this is like December, late December, start of January. Probably again, I was kind of like not sure what I was to be focusing on with my practice. This is actually from a photograph, which, as I said earlier, I don't tend to do very often, but did for I think these two drawings and this one actually. So these are all from photographs and they're just quick sketches. And then I get into my little phase, which I am going to return back to. But I became quite fascinated with painting houses, and really it was off of the back of trying to paint my boyfriend's parents' house and realising that it was a bit of a challenge and I wasn't super happy with the outcome. And then yeah, I feel like this opened up like a new area of my practice that I kind of wanted to develop. And I feel like since graduating uni as well, I care so much less about like maybe like the conceptual side of my art. I am really in like a state of just not really caring about talking about my art and in that way of like trying to find meaning or some sort of story or message through my art. I don't really care about that. I actually am just so much more in tune with wanting to like be with the materials and the act of painting and drawing. And I feel like since graduating that has really opened up for me, and I just feel like I've got this space where I can decide to learn, you know, and focus on different almost like subjects and projects. And so yeah, the idea of like focusing on buildings was something that came to me at the start of the year, and I really enjoyed just spending time in my sketchbook. This is a painting from a photograph. So actually I think all of the next few paintings are from photographs, which, as I've said now, this is the third time I think. I don't tend to work like this, but I didn't have any reference material for buildings and I felt like I needed to actually look at them to understand how I wanted to paint them. And I really do love this little blue cottage. It's very simple and it's a farm. I quite like it, and I like this one too. I do love how this little these buildings came out. And I actually do have a video of me making these little paintings. That'll be one of the first videos on my channel, because that's when I really decided to start committing to making little videos, and I love doing it. Anyway, to me these paintings look like something I would have made like a few years ago because I was working from photographs, but yeah, anyway, moving on. Oh, interesting. Oh, this is inside of Max's house. So I guess another point here with the sketchbook, you can see that like I'm not dedicating it to one use or one subject, one topic, one project, any of that. It's purely just like a place that I have at my disposal to work through. And this is another blank page. Nina, you've not finished it. But yeah, here this is more sketches of buildings, and you can see like I was kind of focusing on these. So these are all from photographs again. Then I started getting the paints out, and I did these ones. Yeah, I feel like this was where I really was taking my practice so much less serious, and I feel like I was really enjoying it, and I think it really opened up this idea of doing more illustrative work and that having value, because I think for a long time, when I was at uni I studied fine art, and so I think I was always very cautious about not doing like illustrative paintings. But now that I am outside of university, I feel like I'm really drawn to painting in more than one way. And I think if you've watched my recent videos, you'll probably notice that I do a bit of a mix of like illustrative work, and then maybe things that are little, I was going to say conceptual, but it's not really conceptual, just maybe more fits into that fine art bracket. But ultimately I like painting and I like colour, and yeah, this is what I want to do. Anyway, more sketches. Back to the little selfies. Oh, and then I did these little paintings, which I think are super cute. I'd be quite happy to do more work like this. I think I perhaps will come back to doing more of these sort of paintings. I'm not really sure. But yeah, you can see I was on a little bit of a roll with the house theme and just playing about. I think this is quite a nice little painting. And I feel like I never finish anything, so that's another theme of my sketchbooks. Okay, moving on. We have some swatches of colour, which, okay, these were initially to be like colour gauges for my postcard series, because I was trying to think about the colour schemes I wanted, and I just thought I'd whip up my sketchbook and just put down a whole load of colours that I thought would be the sort of feelings I would want. I quite like this actually. Like, that's just quite a joyful little set of colours. And then more little paintings. Quite like this. Didn't finish it. There's such a trend here. Quite cute painting. Oh, I like this one. So I've also got another video which you can see me paint this. And this was inspired by my walks out and about in Shetland. So this was probably about, what, February is when I started practicing going outside, taking notes of places and then translating them into paintings, and I really like that process. Yeah, I feel like this was really the beginning of something. But yeah, as you can see, I just totally play about. Oh. And then this is one that I actually did do out and about. This is me just taking colour notes of the landscape. And then this is a messy one from painting in town. This is with gouache paint. And then that's actually it for that sketchbook. So there's quite like a range of stuff going on in the sketchbook, but I think what's really interesting to look at and like reflect on is I think how my practice has evolved in this last year since graduating from university. I think that's one of the fun things about when you flick through a sketchbook is you realise how much you have made, or different little like little destinations you've had on the way to like what you're currently making, because ultimately like everything you make kind of feeds into the next thing, and a lot of time it feeds into it without you even knowing, which is always fascinating. Like, so some of the works that I'm doing right now are things like this and this, and then I have like my postcard series, which I've got lying next to me, so things like this. And I feel like all of these works that I'm currently making would not be possible if I didn't work in this sketchbook and I didn't try out things and play with things. And I hope like you've seen that in this sketchbook there's like hardly anything that is what, I don't know what you'd say, like a neat refined painting, and there's no flow. Like in a lot of ways it jumps from one thing to the next, and I feel like that's kind of nice. Like it's nice to have a space that it doesn't feel like it has to be cohesive, but it still manages to like evolve and inform your practice. I'm gonna quickly just whip through this one. I feel like this video is gonna be so much longer than I thought. So primarily this sketchbook is one that I take outside with me and I take notes on the landscape. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you've probably heard me chat about this before, but I really like going outside and just taking very quick drawings, and then I like to bring that back and then kind of respond to those sketches. And it's just a really great way of tuning your eyes to the world around you. So I'll just flick through it because a lot of the pages probably aren't the most interesting to really talk about, but here we are. I really love pages where it has started to rain and you get these lovely marks. And I have shown parts of this sketchbook in other videos as well, so some of this might be a little bit familiar for some of you that have seen those videos. But this is like one of the most like joyous ways of making for me. Like I find it so satisfying to just sit somewhere and start to understand it in the form of like a drawing. And I love this page. And you can see this was inspired by that. I love those marks. Not very much going on here. I think this is a really cute little sketch. And if you've watched my postcard series, then you probably recognise some of these pages, like this one, which inspired this painting. Some wee sheep. I am going to learn to paint sheep someday. Okay, my camera died and I think we were about here. I really love this sketch actually. Something about that cloud. Love that cloud. And these lines coming down. I also quite like this one. So a lot of these pages, I think I featured them in the postcard series videos, so apologies if you've seen them before. But I do quite like a lot of these little sketches. I really like this one. And I like this one. And I believe there's, yes, this one. I love this sketch. And then I did start playing about with some watercolour paints actually. And these are all kind of related to my postcard series. And I was kind of trying out watercolours for the first time in a long time, and I have discovered that I quite like them. Like doing these sort of faces, I find that really fun. These are some little sketches from my holiday to Corfu. I took my watercolours with me. I think this is quite a nice sketch. And then I've got these little boat sketches which I absolutely adore. Definitely want to paint and draw more boats in the future. So this is kind of what I mean by I feel like my work is taking a bit of an illustrative turn, and I'm really enjoying that, and I think it has been influenced by doing a lot more sketching and drawing and really just basing my practice in what I see in my like everyday life, what's around me, and yeah, capturing that through drawing and painting, which I really enjoy. And when I think about some of my favourite artists, a lot of the things that they make is what they see every day. So yeah, anyway, I love this sketch. So this is another one from Corfu, and I think it's just lovely. I love it. I love it. And these are all still Corfu. But yeah, I really enjoyed just taking lots of notes on that holiday. And then I think this is us. Got another little painting here and some blank pages. So it's actually not a finished sketchbook. I'm finding a trend here. Anyway, that has been the sketchbook tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that either you feel inspired or you feel a little bit more comfortable having a sketchbook that is just a little bit messy, because that is what my sketchbooks are. They're so messy, and it's quite nice to know that I definitely now have the confidence to, like, I'm not afraid to show something that's messy, and I don't feel judged by it or anything. Whereas I think 6 years ago when I started drawing and painting, I would be so embarrassed to show anything like this. But yeah, I don't know, it kind of just shows like that development and change in like my mindset towards my art making. Like, I don't need everything to be perfect, and I'm not going to judge myself for it. Whereas when I was younger, then I definitely would have, and these would have been tucked away for nobody to ever see. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed, and if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. I upload videos every week, usually on a Sunday. And yeah, as you've seen, I like to paint anything inspired by everyday life, the landscape, and I love colour. So those are the kind of things that can my signposts, my core to my practice. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye.